Hello everyone, welcome back to Learn for Tricky. In this session, we are going to learn about AWS SageMaker and SageMaker Studio. Before actually talking about AWS SageMaker and its various features, we first understand the machine learning process with the virtue of supervised learning. We first understand how supervised learning works and what we do normally in local machine in order to achieve that, and how do we make use of AWS SageMaker to simplify the process and get the things done easily. So let's get on the board and get started. So let us first understand the concept of machine learning process with the help of supervised learning. So what is supervised learning? So in general, if I talk about supervised learning, how do you teach your child? You show them the object with the name, like this is an apple, this is a banana, right? And then later on you will show them, hey, what is this? Is this an apple or a banana? Then child say, hey, this is banana, basis on what he learned earlier, right? So this is what supervised learning is. We first annotate the object with the name, we talk the object with the name, and then later on we ask the child to give the answer basis on the object we show to the child, right? So this is supervised learning. So let me just put down over the board what is this supervised learning. What we do normally, we show them the shapes, for example, to the child, okay, and say, hey, this is triangle, this is square, and then we are saying that, hey, how do we check whether the child has understood the concept, learn this concept of square and triangle? We check by showing them another square to the child and ask, what is this? Correct? And the child says, hey, this is square. If the child says this is square, then you say that the training is over. Basically, the child learns it better. But if the child says this is not a square, this is a triangle, then we say that we are not able to train the child correctly. We have to train him again. Correct? So initially, this data set is known as labeled data. This data set is known as labeled or annotated data. So this is the concept of supervised learning basically. So why I'm teaching this, I'm talking about this supervised learning because just want to give you an analogous approach. Like this is what we can do in local machine, and then we can do the same thing with the AWS SageMaker. That's the analogous approach. We can also do unsupervised learning or reinforcement learning with the help of SageMaker, but we are going to walk through of the supervised learning first, and then do the analogous approach. How we can achieve in the AWS SageMaker. So continue on this. So first we provide the data whenever we say the object with the name, we call it as labeled data or annotated data. It can not only with the object, it can be with the video, it can be with the image, it can be with the data. Okay. So we are providing a label data to a child or someone who is learning this, and then we this child will get trained, and then we do the evaluation by showing them the another object and asking the outcome. So when the outcome is correct, then we say that it is trained. If it is not correct, we say that, hey, this is not correct. So this is basically a feedback that we provide it back to to the the system, and the training can further be enhanced, and finally we say that the model training is completed. Now the same thing we can do in case of AI world as well, like in case of programming world as well. What we do normally, we collect the data. It could be any data, like it could be data about accounts, it could be data about sales, it could be image data, it could be video data. We collect the data, we do some cleaning of the data. Sometimes the data is incomplete, sometimes the image is blurry, sometimes the text, the excel sheet data is incomplete, cells are missing, invalid, date time format, etc. So we do the data cleaning. So first is raw data, then we do the data cleaning or wrangling, and then we divide this data into two sets. First set we call it as a training data, and second set we call it as a test data. So training data, we make use of training data to train the model, right? So we write an algorithm. So algorithm will make use of this data. Actually, even if it is a CSV file, our Python code will load the data, this CSV file. If it is an image, it will read that image, right? So algorithm will read the data present in any directory basis on. So this algorithm will be used to train the model training. Okay, and then we do the model evaluation with the help of test data. Model evaluation with the help of test data. And finally, once we are sure that okay, the training is good, we are now it is ready to deploy into the production environment. So this is what the life cycle is. We collect the data, we do the data cleanup, wrangling, then we split the data into training data and test data. We use the algorithm to train the model, and finally we evaluate the model and then deploy the model into the production. So this entire life cycle we can do it within our local machine as well. Like we can simply download respective libraries into the system, Python library, framework, etc. We gather the data in terms of images, videos, or CSV data. We do some data wrangling, data cleanup with the help of NumPy or Pandas library, and then we supply this to the algorithm that we write in order to train it, and then we can do the inference in the local machine. But sometimes if the case is very small, like it might require very you can say limited CPU and memory. But if the problem statement is very complex or requires high computing power, then it may be a costlier approach for you to actually do the training yourself. So in that case, you can make use of the offering provided by the cloud, like in AWS. AWS provides SageMaker. So SageMaker gives us the platform by which we can prepare the data, we can annotate the data, we can do the model training with the help of custom algorithm, or they also provide predefined algorithms in the form of AWS Marketplace. You can simply go to the AWS Marketplace and select the algorithm and for your model training. And finally, it gives the platform to deploy the model into the AWS cloud in EC2 instances, especially curated EC2 instances for AI ML stuff, and then we can make use of it with the help of endpoints. We can make use of those deployed models. So let us go to the AWS console to understand more about AWS SageMaker. So this is the homepage of AWS console where I've tried AWS SageMaker earlier as well. So what we normally do, if you are a beginner, if you are first time starting up with the AWS SageMaker, so you might end up searching this AWS SageMaker over here, like AWS SageMaker. You click on this AWS SageMaker, you will be landing up over here. As soon as you land up over here, you have a button set up for single user. So if you are starting up for the first time, it will ask you to set up for single user. You have to click on this button. What it does, it creates a domain for you to use for AWS SageMaker, SageMaker Studio. But you can, I have already done this exercise. So, but in your case, you have to click on that button. It will take few minutes to prepare your domain, and then you can make use of the studios yourself. Now there is two things. AWS SageMaker and Studio has a difference. SageMaker gives us fundamentals features like creating a data set, training a model, deploying a model. But Studio gives us a platform by which you can write the code on the notebook instances and make use of the entire Studio experience in order to debug, in order to experiment stuff. Everything can be done with the help of Studio, AWS SageMaker Studio. Now, when you land on this page in AWS console, you will see a lot of stuff over there on the left hand side. Okay, don't panic about all of these features. Primarily, as I told you, AWS, like if we have to do the model we have to deploy everything, like it said, build, train, and deploy machine learning model, right? So the first part is building a model, right? Before that, we need a data and annotate. Suppose you want to do the image classification model, you want to train a image classification model. What you do, you need to have data and you need to have images, right? And that images needs to be annotated. Okay, either you get the annotated data source directly, like you can google it, you can go to the Hugging Face data sources. Over there you will get annotated pre-annotated data set. You can make use of that data set. Or if it is something which is totally new, maybe Hugging Face may not have think about that. So in that case, you can take few pictures of those images, annotate those images yourself with the help of SageMaker, and then continue on the model training. Now, first of all, suppose you do have certain images with yourself, and you want to do the annotation part. Basically, you want to label it. Like if it is a, suppose you want to have some data annotation data set to be prepared for some biscuits, like suppose Oreo biscuits. For that, what you do, you have set of images in your local machine. You can simply upload those images into the S3 bucket, and then you have to annotate yourself those images, like this is an Oreo biscuit. So once you tell this information to AWS will create a labeled data set, and then we can make use of that labeled data set to train the image classification model. Okay, so what you can do, you can go to the ground truth. So the ground truth gives us that capability of labeling. So it gives us labeling jobs as a concept, labeling data sets. Okay, so if you click on this labeling data set, labeling jobs, okay, create labeling job. Now when you come here, it will ask few details. He says any job name. So job name can be anything. You can put up any name over here. Now here you say automated data setup or manual data setup. So if you select this automated data setup, either one of them you can select. So before you do, you just have to create couple of buckets, input bucket and output bucket. Input bucket will contain the images that you have with you. Output bucket is the bucket in which it will put up the labeled images, basically a transformation, and then output will be stored into the output bucket. You can make use of the same bucket for both the purpose. Preference is that you can keep them separate. It is personal preference. You can also make use of the same bucket. So here if you look into this, you have to supply the input bucket, and you have to supply, if it is an image, you have to choose the image. This option is very important in IAM role. So you can make use of the existing role or create a new role. While creating your new role, make sure that your bucket is in the same region in which the AWS SageMaker is supported. Okay, if it is not, then it will always complain you the error. Okay, so make sure that the region is same which you select, right? Which is supported region for the AWS SageMaker. Okay, so and then finally there are a lot of stuffs that you can do in the additional configuration. So don't worry about that. So and third, and this task type is like you want to label a single image out of, suppose you have a set of biscuits and you want to label only one out of them. So this is a single image, single labeling. Okay, you want to say, hey, this is an Oreo biscuit, I don't care about other biscuits. So then you select this particular task type. Otherwise, if you have multiple, you want to go with the multiple labeling, you can select this option. Otherwise, you can select the bounding box, where you actually do the you create this bounding box around the object, and then label it. The fourth one is the semantic segmentation, where you actually uh, shade up the area which you need to cover up, right? Finally, we have the label verification. Okay, and where you actually give the job to a responsibility whether the label is correct or not. Okay, so what normally this AWS ground truth does, it actually gives us the like interface by which we select this information. By selecting this information, what we say, sometimes we have, suppose 10,000 images or 100 of images, and this thing is actually we can delegate it to the employees, or we can have employees or workers which actually does the labeling job for you. Like they personally upload an image, label it, and then say that okay, labeling task is done. So this is interface is giving that kind of task execution. Automation can also be done, but manually it is giving us the manual approach by which a labeling can be done with the help of set of workers or etc. So once the labeling is done by the workers or employees etc., then it will actually gets the data set is ready. Then what you have to do, you have to train that model, correct? Your data set is ready, now you have to train the model. Now for training the model, you can go to the training section over here and then select the algorithms. Now either you actually supply the algorithm yourself in the form of a Docker image, or you can also select the algorithm from AWS marketplace. Okay, so if you select the go, you have to find the algorithm from the AWS marketplace, whichever algorithm you like to use. You have to use this SageMaker algorithm as a check box, and then you can search. Suppose you want to do the image classification algorithm, so select the image and type in the image. So and click on this checkbox SageMaker algorithm. Now you can select one of the algorithm over here, subscribe to it, and then you can select that algorithm uh, for model training. Okay, but if you want to do it yourself, there is no problem. You have to go to the create algorithm. Over there you have to fill up the form, making sure that you have a Docker image ready. So you have to supply that Docker image to the ECR, elastic container registry. Over there you have to put in the Docker image, and then you have to select that particular Docker image from this. You have to put in that information over here, that information path to the training image. Okay, so once you supply that particular custom algorithm, it will simply actually get that data sets from the S3 bucket, output S3 bucket, and make use of the custom algorithm that you have supplied in the form of Docker image, and finally train the model. And once the model is trained, it will get stored into the again into the ECR. So that way, we are training the model by annotating, by first preparing the data set, then training the model with the custom algorithm or supplied by the AWS marketplace. And finally, when the model is trained, this model artifact gets stored into the ECR. The artifacts can be stored into the ECR. Okay. And finally, we can make use of that model artifact to deploy that into the production environment, which the SageMaker provides. Okay. So that is the basic usage of AWS SageMaker, and a lot of other things can be done. Like we can have the hyperparameter tuning jobs as well, where it actually fine tune the model being trained. Okay, we can do the inference over here. This is the deployment part. Okay, so deployment, once we does the deployment, we can do the inference with the help of endpoints. So it will gives us the endpoints once the deployment is done. Okay, so this section is all about AWS SageMaker. Now, what about AWS SageMaker Studio? So AWS SageMaker Studio is this. If you click on this studio, it will give you the interface. So now the domain is already created. You can also click on Open Studio. In your case, if it is for the first time, you have to create the domain. You just have to click the button. The domain will get created. It will take a few minutes, and you will be landed over here as a AWS SageMaker Studio. Now there are multiple options on the left menu. So it simply says that, hey, before actually making use of the AWS Studio, you just have to spin up an instance, or basically a EC2, a custom defined EC2 instances. Like if I click on this running instance, there is no other instance, right? I click on this. If you want to run a Jupyter notebook, right, and write your custom logic, you can simply click on this Jupyter. And I have already created a space like my lab, etc. So if you are new, you can click on this create Jupyter lab space and then put up the name, any name you supply over here. Okay, my lab one, create space. Once you create the space, there it gives you an option what to select. Like if I click on this my lab, it gives the option what kind of instance you want to run. If it is T3 ML, T3 medium, if you have like 1 year, if you are doing it for the first time, you will, it is a free tier. It comes under the free tier. It gives you some, AWS gives some benefit of using T3 medium, so you can make use of it. Like it does not cost much for the initial few days. and then it will run the notebook on top of it. And once it runs it, like suppose if I run this space, I will be able to open up the Jupyter lab and then run the custom logic over there and do some experimentation, etc. And this platforms is tightly coupled like with the SageMaker SDK. Lot of things are already pre-weaved with the notebook instances, so you can simply focus on writing the logic and training the model, and it gives us capability for doing the AutoML, basically automatically creating machine learning model. So a lot of algorithms are predefined, you don't have to worry about writing the custom logic. And then there is an option of experimentations, etc. You can do a lot of experiments yourself and run the training job, do the pipelines. You can create your custom pipelines in order to train the model and deploy it to the production. And all those models which gets trained will be part of it. Or you can also use the models supplied by the AWS from this section. So yeah, so this is the overall you can say walkthrough of the AWS SageMaker as well as SageMaker Studio in order to do AI related stuff quite easily within the cloud. Instead of doing it in the local machine, you can do the same thing in the AWS cloud. And it is giving us the capability of CPU as well as GPU, lot of things out of the box, and we can make use of it to build the application, AI applications quite fast. And it's a nice playground. I hope you will try this and able to understand the basic fundamentals of AWS SageMaker. So let me know in the comment section whether you able to understand this concept or not. And if not, then do let me know. I will make another video, or can you suggest you in the reply section what is the next thing? How do you learn this further? Okay. Till then, bye. Take care and stay connected. Do subscribe and comment on this channel. Thank you so much and keep learning.